It was a chilly autumn afternoon in downtown Atlanta. The golden leaves danced gently along the sidewalks as people hurried past, clutching their coffee cups and shopping bags. Among them walked a young boy named Jamal, barely 12 years old, his shoes worn thin and his jacket far too light for the weather. He had just finished his small after-school job, stacking boxes at Mr. Lee's corner store, and was on his way home, his backpack bouncing lightly against his back. Jamal didn't have much, but he carried himself with quiet dignity. His mother always told him, "Son, you don't need money to be rich in heart." Those words echoed in his mind often, especially on days when he'd pass kids his age with new sneakers or when he'd see families eating at restaurants he couldn't afford. He'd smile anyway. Life wasn't easy for him and his mom, but kindness was free, and he gave it generously. As Jamal turned the corner near the city park, something caught his eye. Lying on the bench under a large oak tree was a small black purse. It was elegant, made of soft leather, and looked expensive. He glanced around, no one was nearby. He waited for a moment, thinking maybe the owner would return, but the park was almost empty except for a few joggers in the distance. Curiosity nudged him forward. He picked up the purse gently, noticing the golden initials engraved on the front, LM. He opened it cautiously and found a wallet inside, filled with cash, credit cards, and an ID card belonging to a woman named Linda Matthews. There was also a photo of a smiling elderly woman holding a little girl, probably her granddaughter. Jamal's eyes widened. That was a lot of money. More than he or his mom had seen in months. For a brief moment, temptation whispered in his mind. He could take just a few bills, no one would notice. They could use it to buy groceries or fix the heater that hadn't worked in weeks. But then he remembered his mother's face, the look of pride she always had when she told others, "My boy's got a good heart." Jamal took a deep breath, zipped the purse shut, and made up his mind. He was going to return it. But there was a problem. He didn't know where this woman lived. He checked the ID again, it had an address, but it was on the other side of the city, nearly an hour away by bus. He only had a few dollars in his pocket, just enough for one ride home. He looked toward the setting sun, then at the purse, and sighed. "Guess we're taking a walk, Miss Linda," he muttered softly with a grin. The streets were long and cold, and as he walked, Jamal's stomach growled. He passed a food stand where the smell of hot pretzels filled the air, making his mouth water. He reached into his pocket, feeling the little change he had left, not enough for food and the bus. He tightened his fist. "No, Mama wouldn't want that," he whispered, pressing on. As the city lights began to flicker on, he finally reached the address, a large, beautiful house with white pillars and a flower-filled garden. He hesitated at the gate, feeling out of place in his scuffed shoes and old jacket. He almost turned back, thinking maybe it would be better to leave the purse at the police station instead. But something urged him to finish what he started. He walked up the driveway and rang the doorbell. A few moments later, the door opened, and there stood a well-dressed elderly woman with silver hair and kind blue eyes. She looked surprised to see a young boy standing there, holding her purse. "Mrs. Matthews?" Jamal asked shyly. "I found your purse at the park. I wanted to make sure it got back to you." The woman's hand flew to her chest in shock. "Oh my goodness. I thought I'd lost it forever." "Young man, you have no idea how important this is to me," she exclaimed, her eyes filling with tears. She took the purse gently from his hands, then looked back at him with gratitude. "You must be freezing. Come inside, please." Jamal hesitated, unsure if he should. "It's okay, ma'am. I just wanted to make sure you got it. I should be going home." But Mrs. Matthews wouldn't hear it. "Nonsense. A boy with your manners deserves a warm meal." Reluctantly, Jamal stepped inside. The warmth of the house hit him immediately, the scent of fresh cookies, the soft glow of lamps, the sound of a ticking clock. He hadn't been in a home like this before. Mrs. Matthews led him to the kitchen and served him a plate of food. He ate slowly, shyly, while she called her daughter to let her know the purse had been found. As they talked, Jamal mentioned his mother and how hard she worked to keep their small apartment running. Mrs. Matthews listened with genuine interest, touched by the boy's honesty and humility. When Jamal finally stood to leave, she stopped him at the door. "Wait just a moment," she said, disappearing into another room. When she returned, she handed him a small envelope. "I can't let you go without thanking you properly." Jamal shook his head. "No, ma'am, I didn't do it for money." "I know," she smiled. "That's exactly why you deserve it." He hesitated before accepting it, promising to give his mother a hug from Mrs. Matthews. As he walked away, he didn't open the envelope until he reached the bus stop. Inside was a note that read, "Thank you for your honesty. The world needs more hearts like yours." Folded beneath the note was a crisp $100 bill. Tears filled Jamal's eyes, not because of the money, but because someone saw his heart and valued it. He looked up at the night sky, whispering, "See, Mama. You were right. Kindness really does come back." What he didn't know was that this small act of goodness would soon change both their lives forever, in a way that neither of them could ever imagine. The next morning, Jamal woke up to the sound of his mother humming softly in the kitchen. The smell of pancakes filled their tiny apartment, a rare treat. When he walked in, she smiled warmly, holding the same envelope he had brought home the night before. "Baby, where did this come from?" she asked gently. Jamal told her everything, how he'd found the purse, how far he walked, and how the kind lady had insisted he take the envelope. His mother listened quietly, her eyes glistening with pride. When he finished, she reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "That's my boy. You did the right thing. God sees everything, Jamal. Remember that." Later that day, while Jamal was at school, Mrs. Matthews couldn't stop thinking about the boy who had gone out of his way to return her purse. His honesty had touched her deeply. She called her daughter and said, "I want to meet that young man again. Boys like him deserve to be lifted up." Her daughter agreed, and together they contacted the local news station to share the story, hoping they might help find him. That evening, when Jamal came home from school, his mom was standing by the TV, her mouth open in disbelief. "Jamal, look," she said, pointing to the screen. There he was, his shy smile lighting up the news broadcast. The reporter was telling the story of a young boy who found and returned a lost purse instead of keeping the money. Within hours, the story spread across social media. Strangers began commenting, calling Jamal a hero and a young man with a golden heart. Messages of admiration poured in, and people from all over the city asked how they could help his family. The next day, Mrs. Matthews and her daughter visited Jamal's neighborhood. They found his apartment and knocked gently on the door. When his mother opened it, they greeted her with warm smiles. "We just wanted to thank you in person," Mrs. Matthews said, handing over a box wrapped with a ribbon. Inside was a brand new laptop and a scholarship offer for Jamal's education. Jamal stood there speechless, tears glimmering in his eyes. Mrs. Matthews smiled softly. "You didn't just return my purse, young man. You returned my faith in goodness."